Hello everyone. This video I will show you how to use EViews commands to run regression and save the result in a table and export it to an Excel file. But before we start, let's look at the data set we have. We carry on with the same example we had from the previous videos. If you notice here, we have our data range from its quarterly data from the first quarter 1980 to the first quarter 2012. So we have 129 observations, and we use the entire range of the data we have for our sample for the estimation. So before I show you how to actually run a regression using OLS on this data using EViews commands, let's assume that we want to restrict the sample, or we want to estimate the model based on a subsample rather than the entire sample, rather than the full sample. So the command to do this is to SMPL, which an abbreviation for sample, and then let's say we want to have this from let's say, so SMPL, so again this stands for sample. Let's say we want to run the regression on a subsample from 1980. Rather than first quarter, we want to start from quarter 4, and we don't want this to be, we don't want the data to be up to 2012. We want this to be up to, let's say, before the financial crisis, the global financial crisis, let's say up to 2007 quarter 1. Okay, so if we highlight this line and we run selected, then you notice here that the range is still the same, but the sample now becomes from, it's changed to 1980, the fourth quarter 1980, and till 2007. And you see we have, rather than having 129 observations, we have a sample of 107 observations. So now let's say we want to run a regression. Write a command to run a regression of GDP on a constant and investment, and let's say, so GDP here, this is our variable, the dependent variable, and we want to run a regression of GDP on, let's say, investment and government expenditure, for example. So which is G here. So the command to do this, we want to tell EViews that we have an equation. So we want to have equation, and let's give our regression a name. Let's call it reg1. So again, so I'm estimating an equation, and this equation I call it reg1, regression 1. So give it any name you want, and dot, and then you need to include the estimation method. So we'll start with the simplest estimation method, OLS. So it's LS. So again, so this reg1 is just the name of the I give to this regression, because EViews basically gonna create a new object, and we'll name it for that equation, and we'll name it reg1 dot ls, which again is OLS, the ordinary least square method. And after that, it should be followed by your dependent variable, which is GDP, followed by constant C, and you add the independent variable investment, which is INV here, and G, which is I think government expenditure. So if you highlight this and run a regression, then what we have here, if you notice, we have a new object called reg1, which basically the results from this equation for the estimation. So if you double click on this object, it will give you the results from OLS. Okay, so what if I want to okay, now if you save this as an object, but what if I want to export the results into let's say a table? So one way to do this is to write a command. In the command, first we want to freeze that table, because if this is not active, and the EViews will give you an error message. So the first of all, I want to freeze the results, or this table. So I'm gonna say freeze, and let's say and then the mode will be overwrite, and let's say I'm gonna call it regress 1, and this should be our reg1 object. Okay, so and then the second line, in the second line I'm going basically to regress 1, which is the name I just gave here in the first command when I freeze the table or the results from the regression I ran before. Dot save, so the command is save, so dot save, and then basically you need to open a bracket and then tell EViews the type of the file to be saved. So I'm gonna, because I want it in an Excel file, so I'm gonna say t equal CSV, which is the type of the extension of that can be a file that can be opened by Excel, and close the bracket, and let me call this file regression table. So I'm gonna call it reg table. So again, let me just, I didn't run this step yet. So again, the first one, let's say, so this one which we already implemented before, the equation, just asking EViews to do an equation, so to create an equation object, and that object include the regression when it's named reg1, and the estimation method is OLS, and here's the dependent variable and the independent variables. We already created this, we already implemented this line, so we have reg1. So what we wanted to do next is to export these results in an Excel file. So just to avoid receiving an error message, so we want to freeze the results first, and then we freeze this table, and then the second line basically export that table or save it as CSV, and I just named it reg table. So let's do this and see what we're gonna get. So I'm just gonna highlight these two lines and run selected, and as you can see, it's called regress 1, so it's frozen the results from this estimation. And also if I go to the work directory, you will see a new Excel file that called reg table. So if I open this one, it actually exported the results from my regression. So I'm just gonna move it here. So you see the dependent variable GDB, and this is least square is the method, and it's done today, and this is the sample, this is the number of observations. You have the estimated coefficients here, the standard error, t statistics, and all other results that come from EViews. So that's all for today. So again, just to sum up quickly before I conclude the video. So all what we did today is just to show you how to do regression, or to use a subsample. So in this case, we use a subsample from 1980 Q4 to 2007 Q1, and the command is basically is SMPL, which is from sample, and then you write the range of the subsample. We run a regression by typing equation, give it a name reg1 .ls, this is the method, and then you put the dependent variable followed by the independent variables. To export the results, is basically better to it's good idea to freeze the results first, and then you export the result in an Excel file, as we saw. Just one final thing before I go. I think it's good if you want to it's good to know that what to do if you want to basically now go back to the full sample rather than working on the subsample. So the command for that is SMPL at all. Once I implement this, just notice this, now 107 observation, the sample will change to the full observation, the full sample now 129 observation. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.